If you're in the market for a small car, a hatchback or small sedan, you're probably looking at a Civic, a Corolla, or a Subaru Impreza. This is a 2024 Mazda 3 Sport. This could be a good option too. Let's find out what this car offers. So in this 2024 Mazda 3 Sport, this is the GT trim specifically. And what's so special about this GT trim is that it gets 4 different powertrain options. You get to choose from a manual gearbox, front-wheel drive, 2.5-liter engine, all the way up to an all-wheel drive 2.5-liter turbo engine, which gets you 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. What else is nice about this GT trim is the nice leather interior. You get leather dash, leather seats, leather steering wheel, and of course this one, you get a manual transmission. Now, let's walk around outside and show you a little bit more about the outside of the car. So, up front, this has a nice muted metallic ceramic grayish color that blends very well with a little bit of dirt. As you can see, in Ontario, we're finally snowing. It's January, and some of the snow and some of the dirt, it actually hides it quite well. Under the hood, this has the 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine, which puts out 191 horsepower and 180 some odd torque. And paired with this 6-speed manual transmission, it actually is quite fun to drive. So overall, the looks is a bit controversial. It has a slightly longer hood and a really odd-looking rear quarter panel to a lot of people. However, if you look overall as a vehicle, it actually looks quite well. I'm actually very fond of the look of this car. It's low to the ground, it's sporty looking, it's a hatchback, which is something that I really enjoy. However, walking to the back, this is where it has a little bit of a downfall. The rear seat is quite small in comparison. As you can see here, the front seat is adjusted to my height and I have barely any room. To make things worse, this vehicle has very small windows and a huge quarter panel here that creates a big blind spot for the driver, as well as a very claustrophobic interior for the rear passenger. So if you're thinking of purchasing a car like this, be sure not to have family with you. Other than that, if this is just a vehicle for you to drive and potentially an extra passenger, occasionally with backseat passengers, then it'd be perfect little car. Now, walking back to the trunk space, because this had a very sloped hatch roof, the trunk space is a little bit compromised. The trunk itself is great, but it doesn't have necessarily the advantages of a true hatchback that has a lifted back that you can store more things up to the windows. Overall, this is still a great looking vehicle, but in terms of storage and passengers and just space, this is not the one to get. But as a person that wants a small little car, this is very speedy, very agile, and very small. It's great for the city. It is also great as a little small car, great fuel efficiency as well. Why don't we go ahead and take a drive and show you what it's like on the road. Okay, on the road with the 2024 Mazda 3 Sport. This is a great little small car. It has a manual transmission, this one specifically, so if you want to enjoy a little bit more engaging drive, but not necessarily something that's super sporty, this is one of the very, very few options left in the market, not even in this segment. Now, in terms of power, we're going uphill now, and it does lack a little bit, but once you shift down, it still does quite a fantastic job. Now, occasionally, the car, there would be a little bit of a rattle noise at the B pillar in this specific vehicle. Not something that I think applies to all Mazda vehicles. but this specifically is something that really bothers me. Other than that, the build quality is really not bad for its vehicle. The manual transmission is easy to drive. The 3 pedals location is at a very good spot for even some heel toe downshifting if you're into that kind of stuff. In terms of the rest of the vehicle, the power is adequate for a vehicle this size, and it has heated steering wheel, which is nice, heated seats. All these leather surfaces are fantastic to live with. In this GT trim, it's also real leather, not just leatherette, which is again amazing. We have some physical buttons here for climate control. We've got wireless Apple CarPlay with a 10.25-inch screen over here. Down in the dash, we also have a digital cluster. In the center, a gauge. This is digital, but it doesn't really show that much information. You have your typical fuel economy and trip gauges and stuff like that, but compared to some of the newer softwares, it really is lacking a little bit in terms of the information department. What's great about this engine is that it's a SkyActiv engine, which means that it is not only fairly powerful for its class, it's also very, very fuel efficient. I've gotten around 6 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, and in the city, it's also very great at less than 9 liters per 100 kilometers. And all of this is with a manual gearbox. So if you pick the automatic version of this vehicle, you could expect a little bit better fuel economy. Now, in terms of safety features, this car has it all. It has lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, as well as, emergency braking and stuff like that. So really you wouldn't be too concerned about the safety aspect of this vehicle. This vehicle actually also rides very well. It's quiet in the cabin. It's almost silent in lower speeds. And on the highway, it gets a little louder when you're at speed, but for its class of vehicle, it's still a very adequate cabin. Now, one of the other big selling point of this vehicle is the price point. This is the GT trim, and this as spec'd is 34,000 Canadian dollars, including destination charge. And the GT trim is already the top trim, interior speaking. Obviously, we've chosen the base powertrain with the manual gearbox. If you really wanted to fully load this vehicle, you can get the 2.5 liter turbo engine with all-wheel drive at around 38 MSRP, so $40,000 including destination charge, which still isn't a bad price considering its competitors. A comparable Civic hatchback with the manual gearbox is going to cost you around 38,000 Canadian dollars, and with the automatic around the same price. But that only has the 1.5 turbo engine, which compared to a 2.5T available in this vehicle is significantly less power. Now, speaking of base models, the base models of this Mazda3 Sport starts at 26,000 Canadian dollars. With a little bit of a reasonable spec, you could expect the car to be just under 30 grand. This again is a hard to beat price considering the materials used, the build quality of this vehicle, as well as the competitors available. An equivalent Corolla is a little bit cheaper, but at the same time, the Corolla hatchback is significantly smaller and uses less premium materials with a less powerful engine. Now, overall, this vehicle is a great little pocket vehicle, not a rocket in a sense, but for the price point, it's a really good option. And if you are a potential owner with not a big family or just a single person, or you're not planning to carry a lot of people or a lot of goods in this vehicle, then this really could be a good option. It has a very solid chassis, it has a great engine, it is also very efficient as well. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Would you take this or a Civic hatchback? Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and like this video.